Everyone told her she was throwing her money away. A beaten-down German Shepherd for $5? It had to be a mistake. But when that dog finally revealed who he really was, the little girl broke down sobbing. What started as an act of kindness turned into something nobody saw coming, and it would end up inspiring an entire community. Lily was only 7 years old, but she'd been saying the same thing for months. One day, I'm going to find my real best friend. She didn't know that day would come sooner than anyone expected. While visiting a rundown property on the outskirts of town with her grandfather, Lily noticed something moving near an old weathered barn. There, sprawled in a pile of dirty straw, was a German Shepherd. He was painfully thin. One leg dragged behind him when he tried to stand. His eyes looked empty, his body covered in old scars. He was tied loosely to a fence post with frayed rope, like someone had forgotten he even existed. When Lily asked the property owner about the dog, the man barely looked up. "He's useless now. Messed up his leg. You want him? $5 and he's yours." Lily turned to her grandfather, her eyes wide with something between hope and desperation. Then she reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out 5 crumpled dollar bills. Every cent she had. Money she'd saved from collecting eggs and sweeping her grandmother's porch every weekend. Her hand shook slightly as she held it out toward the man. He snatched the cash without even pausing, muttering under his breath, "He's your problem now." But to Lily, this dog wasn't a problem. He was a promise waiting to be kept. Her grandfather hesitated, concern etched across his face. "Sweetheart, are you absolutely sure about this?" Lily nodded, her voice steady despite the emotion rising in her throat. "He needs somebody. And I think he chose me." They carefully untied the dog, moving slowly so they wouldn't startle him. The dog didn't resist. He simply stood on shaky legs and followed Lily without making a sound. In that quiet moment, their bond was sealed. When they got home, Lily made him a bed in the barn using warm blankets and filled a bowl with fresh water. She knelt down beside him, gently running her hand along his matted fur, and whispered, "You're safe now, Bruno." The name came to her naturally, without thought. And for the first time, the dog let out a soft sigh, as if he finally understood that he belonged somewhere. The first few days were silent. Bruno hardly moved. He barely touched his food. His limp was even worse than Lily had realized, and he flinched at every unexpected noise. He never barked. Never growled. He just watched with exhausted eyes that seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 hard days. Lily stayed beside him for hours at a time, reading him stories at bedtime, sharing pieces of her sandwich, even placing her favorite stuffed animal next to him while he slept. Her grandparents watched quietly from a distance, unsure whether the dog would recover or ever learn to trust again. But Lily never wavered. Every single morning, she greeted him with a cheerful, "Good morning, buddy." And every night she tucked him in like he was family. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, something began to change. One evening, as Lily hummed softly to herself while brushing hay in the barn, Bruno's tail gave a small, uncertain wag. It wasn't much. Just a flicker of movement. But to Lily it meant everything. That one tiny wag told her what she'd believed all along. Bruno wasn't just healing on the outside. He was learning to feel safe again. More than that, he was learning to love. It wasn't long before Lily's grandfather started noticing strange things about Bruno. One evening, the television was on in the living room playing a military documentary. The moment the sound of marching boots echoed from the speakers, Bruno snapped to attention. He stood rigid, ears forward, body perfectly still, like a soldier responding to a command he hadn't heard in years. Lily noticed it too. "Grandpa, why did he do that?" she asked quietly. The next morning, something even more unusual happened. Lily accidentally knocked over a bucket full of grain, and before she could even react, Bruno darted forward and positioned himself directly between her and the noise. Protective. Alert. Calculating. Later that afternoon, Lily playfully pointed her finger like a pretend gun and shouted, "Bang!" Bruno dropped to the ground instantly, lying completely still. Playing dead. No one had ever taught him that trick. At least, not recently. Her grandfather stood on the porch, arms crossed, brow furrowed in thought. "That dog's been trained," he said softly. "Not just tricks either. Real training. Serious training. Lily looked down at Bruno, who now rested peacefully at her feet. Maybe he just forgot who he was until now. The sun was beginning to set when it happened. Lily had wandered a little too far toward the edge of the woods behind the farm, chasing a butterfly with Bruno trailing close behind. The grass was tall. The air was still. Suddenly, there was a violent rustling in the bushes, and without warning, a wild boar charged out, snarling and barreling straight toward her. Lily froze. Her heart slammed against her ribs. But Bruno didn't freeze. In one fluid motion, he launched himself between Lily and the charging animal, barking with such ferocity it echoed through the trees. He didn't hesitate, didn't back down. With perfect precision, he circled, dodged, and herded the boar away from her, growling until the creature finally turned and retreated back into the woods. When it was over, Bruno calmly returned to Lily's side and licked her trembling hand, as if nothing unusual had happened at all. If this story touches your heart, please share it with someone who believes in second chances. The next morning, Lily's grandfather made a decision. "We need to get him checked out properly," he said. They brought Bruno to the town's small animal clinic, tucked between the feed store and the bakery. Dr. Simmons, the local vet, welcomed them in and began examining Bruno carefully. As his hands moved along the dog's neck and shoulders, he paused. "There's something here," he muttered, pressing gently into Bruno's skin. Moments later, he carefully extracted a small metallic chip embedded beneath the fur. Damaged, but still intact. Using a specialized scanner, Dr. Simmons read the chip. What appeared on the screen made his eyes go wide. "This dog," he said slowly, "he's not a stray. He was part of a military canine unit. His designation was Bravo 9. He was presumed dead in action 2 years ago after a transport explosion." Lily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Bruno." Tears filled her eyes as she dropped to her knees beside him. Bruno gently licked her face as if to say, "It's okay now." She wrapped her arms around him and whispered, "You were a hero before I ever met you. But now you're my hero too." In that moment, the $5 dog became something far greater. Living proof that broken things can still save lives. Bruno's story spread quickly. Dr. Simmons, deeply moved by what he'd discovered, reached out to a local reporter who had served in the military. A few days later, an article appeared in the town paper with the headline, "Forgotten War Dog Found by Young Girl." Within hours, people started showing up at the farm. Some brought treats for Bruno. Others just wanted to meet the brave dog who had somehow come back from the dead. Neighbors who had kept their distance before were now leaving thank you cards and dog bones on the front porch. One retired soldier even drove across 2 counties just to shake Lily's hand and salute Bruno. "He didn't just save lives on the battlefield," the man said, his voice thick with emotion. "He reminded all of us what loyalty really looks like." A few weeks later, the town organized a small gathering at the community center to honor Bruno. Lily stood in front of a crowd of people, her small hand resting on Bruno's head. "I didn't know who he was when I gave that $5, she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I just knew he needed someone. And maybe I needed someone too." Her eyes filled with tears, and she paused to wipe her cheek with her sleeve. "Everyone says I rescued him. But I think he rescued me first." The room fell completely silent. Bruno stood beside her, strong and steady now. His tail wagged gently, as if he understood every single word. Lily knelt down, wrapped her arms around him, and whispered, "You're my best friend." And in that moment, there wasn't a single person in that room who wasn't crying. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible true stories that prove love and loyalty can heal even the deepest wounds.